everyone, a warm welcome from Alchemist Academy. This is Satnaam here. Today I'd like to share a webinar with you which is based on summarized written text. It is based on all the latest exam questions. We have collected about 25 latest exam questions. Now in this webinar, I'm going to show you how to solve these exam questions, not only based on content recognition strategies, but also I'll be focusing on the different types or styles of exam questions that you can answer. In order to help you out with this, I will be using the Alchemist AI software and we will be going through this. Hope this webinar helps you out. Let's have a look in this webinar now. Alright everyone, so let's start with summarized written text. Now summarized written text, as you know, is one of the most important tasks in your writing as well as for your reading score. So it's not just about writing, it also is important in terms of your reading scores. It carries quite a lot of weightage. Now, first thing first, under your writing section, you will have two different topics: summarized written text and essay writing. Now, in your summarized written text, you can have minimum 2, maximum 3 questions, and in your essay writing, you can have minimum 1, maximum 2 questions. So there is always a combination. Either you can have 2 summaries in 1 essay, or you can have 3 summaries in 1 essay, or you can have 2 summaries and 2 essays. Now, why is summarized written text a really important item type? Because, as I said, the score goes into your reading and it goes into your writing as well. You will be provided 10 minutes for each question. So the time provided to answer each question is about 10 minutes. Now, suppose if I finish my first question, let's say 6 minutes, and I say 4 minutes, that's not going to get carried forward to the next question. It's again 10 minutes. So there's no point rushing through it and no point overspending time as well. Just try to finish your answer in a correct span of time, and just make sure that when you're answering, your focus is on content recognition. Now, going ahead, this is the sample screen of the task in this. So this is the question that you need to summarize. You need to write your answer over here. You've got the cut, copy, paste buttons just in case if you want to rearrange or rephrase a question. You also got the word count sitting here at the bottom, and the timer is always up over here in this corner of the page. The timer will always be over here. Now, having said that, let's move ahead. Now, what you should be good at when it comes to summarized written text. Now, first thing first, which I want all of you to remember is one of the most important things over here is, as you know, we need to write. So it will be sentence construction. So when it comes to sentence construction, the way you structure your sentence, that should be very good. Structuring is very important because as we are using some conjunctions, we need to use a lot of complex and compound sentences as we're connecting a lot more information. So the structuring has to be good. If you talk about the structure, the grammar will also be linked. Now, talking about the grammar, how is grammar and structure linked? So when it talks about the grammar, you're looking at about the punctuations, you're looking at tenses, you're looking at sentence formation, and that's a very critical aspect of your grammar. After this, your vocabulary is also linked to this. How is that? Because when it comes to vocabulary, you need to change a few words. Vocabulary sometimes can be controversial because some student or some questions, as we can say, is some questions need paraphrasing, some questions need partial paraphrasing, and we can copy some part of the question, and in some cases we can literally just copy all the information provided from the question as well. The next thing that you should be ideally very good at is your spellings. Try not to make any spelling mistake because this is a writing task. And the last thing is intelligibility. That means your ability to comprehend and understand what the writer is trying to convey. Now let's move at this writing score secrets. Your writing score, which is out of 90, just does not come from 2 sections, which is summarized written text and essays. It comes from a total of 6 different sections. Now, what are those 6 different sections? The very first thing is listening, fill in the blanks. Listening, fill in the blanks, which carries about 4% of your scores. The next thing is write essays, which is from the writing section. It carries 12% of your scores. You got summarized written text, which carries 15% of your scores. You got summarized spoken text, which carries 17% of the scores. Reading and writing fill in the blanks, which is very, very, very important, carries 24% of the scores. And dictations, which is extremely important, which carries 28% of your scores. Now, if you go to the test, dictations is a section from listening. It's in fact the last section in your listening. If you're unable to complete your dictations, the chances of you getting your scores for listening as well as in writing are really, really narrowed down. And there's a very big chance that you will not get your writing score as well as your listening score. It can be 65, it can be 79, it can also be 50, depending on your requirement. Talking about these percentages are based on an estimation of the minimum number of questions that you could get in the task, which means if I've got 1 essay I've got 2 summarized written text, I've got 2 summarized spoken text. Certainly the percentage will change based on the number of questions, but this is the average that you should be expecting. So let's talk about our topic, which is summarized written text. Summarized written text, one question individually carries 7 marks. So the total for one question is about 7 marks. All right, now how does the 7 marks comes in? Let's have a look. The very first thing that takes your scores towards your summarized written text is your content. Now content is very important, and content recognition should be done very carefully. Content carries 2 marks. You will be given 2 marks if you provide a good summary of the text. You mention all the relevant aspects. Now relevant aspects simply means that all the keywords are recognized and they have been put into some semblance of an order. 1, if you will provide a fresh summary but you miss 1 or 2 aspects, that means a few keywords are missing, still you will get 1 mark. This, if you get 0, which is very risky, if you get 0 in content, there is no further scoring, and that's not me who's saying it, that's the scoring guide. No further scoring, that's the scoring guide. You can read the scoring guide and you can see what the scoring guide has to say. Now try to make sure that you identify the content. One of the easiest thing is, let's say if I'm not sure of a content, at least try to identify the keywords in it. And I'm going to make sure that after this webinar you find that content recognition is an easy task for you. It is not a hard task. The next thing that carries your score in your summarized written text is the form. Form carries only 1 mark, but this is one of the most important aspects. I'm just going to make a star next to these 2 things because they're extremely important. You will get 1 mark provided your answer is written in one single complete sentence. Now what does that mean? It simply means that you're supposed to put only 1 full stop at the end of your answer. Let's say if you don't do that, that means if you don't put 1 single sentence, if you put more than 1 full stop, or for that matter of case you wrote less than 5 words or more than 75 words, or if your entire summary is written in capital letters, you'll straight away get 0. If you get 0, unlike your content, there is no further scoring. So if you come into this, if these 2 things, if you look at, there is no further scoring if you get 0 in any one of them. Let's say my content is perfect, but when I was doing the test, I accidentally forgot that I was supposed to write 75 words. I ended up writing 77 words or 76. I'll straight away get 0, and then the entire answer will be graded as 0, irrespective of the fact whether my content was good or my content was bad. The next thing that carries a score is grammar. Now grammar also carries 2 more marks. Now grammar simply means, as I said at the beginning as well, your structure is related to it. How do you construct your sentences, tenses, punctuations? A lot of things are included in your grammar. One very unique aspect of this marking criteria is, look at this. This is a section of writing, isn't it? But it doesn't talk about the spelling. So if you were to make a spelling mistake, that would be included in your grammar. 1 spelling mistake takes away 1 mark of grammar. 2 spelling mistakes would straight away get down to 0. However, it does not impact the overall score. If you get 0 here, you'll still be given scores if the other components are correct. Last thing, which is the vocabulary. Vocabulary is a little bit controversial. Let's have a look why or how would you get 2 marks provided from the scoring guide. I would get 2 marks if I have an appropriate choice of word. My repertoire that I use is good, it's varied, and it conveys the exact same meaning as the speaker. Now, why am I saying this is because suppose you were listening to a particular, let's say you were doing a question. Let's say you're reading a question. It's a very easy question. The content is straightforward. It's easy for you to understand. You can have the same words from the question as your answer. You don't need to paraphrase a lot of things. Then how do I get my score for vocabulary in that? I would be using synonyms. Now, if I come down to, let's say, a question which is pretty tricky. Now, there are some questions that are tricky in which you can copy paste some information. In some places, you have to create your own sentences or you have to combine them. In that case, the words that you use to combine, which will be your conjunctions, or the word that you're trying to rephrase, that will come under your vocabulary. Please make sure that if you're not sure about the spelling of a word or the synonym of a word, it is better to copy the same word rather than paraphrasing it. All right. So at the end of the day, the task over here is matching the keywords and trying to understand that my content is good. Now, what is content? Before I move into the next slide, let's just identify it here. Content simply means keywords plus main idea of the question. All right, so let's go into the content recognition strategies. So there are 2 very simple strategies when we are looking at content in any written text. The very first thing is called scanning and the second thing is called skimming. Both of them need to be done together at the same time. However, let's understand what is scanning and what is skimming. First thing first, let's look at scanning. What is scanning? Scanning is a reading technique that uses the rapid eye movement to spot the keywords. So the first question that I would have in mind is, well, okay, what are keywords? Keywords are the most repeated words in the text. are the most repeated words in the text. They can also be nouns, which is the name of a person, name of a place, numbers, years, percentages maybe, but it really depends whether it is related to the main idea or not. Verbs, again, yes, they can be keywords, but you need to find out whether they're related to the main idea or not. Now, what is skimming on the other hand? Skimming on the other hand simply helps you to understand, to get a general overview. So basically, when you skim something, you just go left to the right, top to bottom really fast, and you try to identify, all right, so what is this question about, or what are they trying to get? It helps you to identify the central idea, as well it helps you to identify the topic sentences when you're reading. Now, what are topic sentences? Now, topic sentences are those sentences that you would want to put in your answer, or you would want to put in your summary when you're writing it. How do you identify topic sentences? Topic sentences can be found at looking at the introduction of a question. That's very important. It can help you to understand by just focusing on the first few sentences or the last few sentences, which is called conclusion. One of the most helpful out of all of this is conjunctions. Now, conjunctions do really help you to identify the topic sentences as well as information that you would want to put in a question. Now, before we move into real exam question and we try it out, I'd like to show something different to you. Now, the different part over here is the different types of summary questions that you can get in the real test. Now, the different types of summary questions. The very first one is a question which includes a lot of direct quotes. Usually in our answers, or when we are creating a summary, we shouldn't include anything from the direct quotes. All right, direct quotes are usually used either when you're referring to someone's words. For example, Albert Einstein said, inverted commas, the only thing that interferes with my learning is medication. So that's a phrase that's a quote that he said. So we don't usually, when we've got direct quotes, we don't include that in our answers. Second thing is questions which has got multiple paragraphs in them. So there are some questions which has got more than 3 or 4 paragraphs at a time. Some of them are single paragraphs, but they are very lengthy. So there's a category called lengthy paragraphs. There's a fourth category which is called questions with data and numerical values in it. So sometimes there can be a question which can be full of data and the numbers in terms of percentages. It can also be years. It can also be just random numbers in between them. Fourth one is called questions with extra explanation. This is slightly easy, and it is also sometimes very confusing. But the thing with extra explanation is sometimes there are some questions which has got a lot of repeated key ideas in it, and we usually don't have to put them in our answers. Remember, the key point, the key thing or the key task over here is just to extract the key ideas and put that in your answers, and you just need to put them in your answers. Now I'm going to give you an example of a question in which I will be using some data, and at the same time I'm going to have multiple paragraphs. So there can be a combination of these 2 things or 3 things as well. Let's have a look. So a question with the data and multiple paragraphs. All right, so this is a real exam question. In fact, this is one of the latest exam questions. It's one of the newest exam questions which has come recently. Let's start scanning and skimming this question. So I'm going to quickly go through this question. I'm going to have a look, what is this question about. So let's start. World is shrinking, faster communication, transportation, Gucci, Sony, McDonald's, food, English, Japanese restaurant, international trade. Okay, that's a quick number. Multinational corporations, multinationals, Walmart, revenue, world trade. Okay, so I can see the word trade, stripping GDP, world trade recession. Again, I can see the word trade. So I've got international trade here. I've got world trade again, worldwide recession, trading many US companies, long successful, international marketing. Again, you've got several company names, and then you have the same thing used by foreign companies. All right, so if I was to really look at the main idea behind this question, what I think is this question is majorly about international trade. Let's start reading it. Now remember, when I told you about topic sentences, there are 3 ways of finding topic sentences. The 3 ways of finding topic sentences is either you read the introduction, either you get it from conclusion, or you start reading sentences. Let's start reading. Whenever you read a question, just make sure that when you're reading a sentence, does it relate to the main idea or not? In this case, our main idea is international trade. So every time I read a sentence, I'm only going to ask, is it like an extra information, or is it giving me a lot more repetitive information, or is it giving me a unique point about my main idea? All right, let's start reading this. So it says the world is shrinking rapidly with the advent of faster communication, transportation, and financial flows. Okay, maybe I might include it, maybe I might not. So that's too early for me to say, so that's my intro. Products developed in one country, Gucci purses, Sony electronics, McDonald's hamburgers, Japanese sushi, German BMWs, have found enthusiastic acceptance in other countries. countries. It would not be surprising to hear about a German businessman wearing an Italian suit meeting an English friend at a Japanese restaurant who later returns home to drink a Russian vodka and watching Dancing with the Stars on TV. Alright, well, I think these are all examples, and one very important thing with summaries is we should not include examples in our answers at all. So if I look at this point, if I start from let's say up until here, it's full of examples and data, so I'm just going to cross this out. I don't need it. Okay, but maybe this one, just this very sentence, I might include in my answer. Okay, international trade has boomed over the past 3 decades. Fair enough. Since the 1990s, the number of multinational corporations in the world has grown about from more than 30,000 to more than 63,000. Some of these multinationals are true giants. In fact, of the largest 150 economies in the world, only 81 are countries. Okay. The remaining 69 are multinational corporations. Walmart, the world's largest company, has annual revenues greater than the GDP of all but the world's 21 largest countries. Okay, my goodness. So if you look at this, I will only include probably this sentence here and up until here. But if you look at this, I wouldn't include any of this. This is just, again, a lot more example. I'm not going to include anything apart from here. So if I look at this one up until here, I'm not going to include anything because it is full of data. So let me just quickly, probably I might just underline the sentence that I was going to have in my answer. Probably I might have this. I might even have this. So 2 paragraphs, as you can see from the 2 paragraphs, that was a lot of data. Data doesn't necessarily means like numbers. Data can also mean names, a lot of names, as you can see, Gucci, Sony, McDonald's, XYZ. There can be numbers as well. Now let's go down ahead. Between 2000 and 2008, the total world trade grew more than 7% per year, easily outstripping the GDP output, which was about 3%. Fair enough. Despite a dip in the world trade caused by recent worldwide recession, the world trade of products and services last year was valued more than $12 trillion and about 17% of the GDP worldwide. Okay, the whole paragraph here is full of, I would say, data or numbers. The only thing that I can see which is not full of data or numbers is just this sentence here. Despite a dip in the world trade caused by recent worldwide recession, the world trade has grown. The world trade has boomed. All right, so I might just include this and I might remove the rest of it. That means I might not include beginning from here until here. I might not include anything from beginning from here until. All right, that's fair enough. Let's go down. Many US companies have long been successful at international marketing. McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Starbucks, GE, IBM, Colgate, Caterpillar, Boeing, and dozens of other American firms have made the world their market. Okay. To be very honest, if I was to consider something from here, I actually don't need these things, isn't it? Don't you agree with me? So these are all examples: McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Starbucks, GE, IBM, Colgate, Caterpillar, Boeing. As I said, they're all nouns, but they're all examples. So I might not include that in my answer, and I might just, up until here, I might just leave it alone. I might include this, which says, because many US companies, if I use this phrase, I can just cover this whole section, so I don't need to mention anything from there. In the United States, names such as, again, that's an example, Sony, Toyota, Nestle, IKEA, Canon, Nokia have become household words. If you look at this, I've kind of underlined this part over here, which is related to US companies, and I think there's a repetition over here. If you look at this, there's a repetition over here in the United States again. Probably I might include that, but I will not include anything that's coming out from here, because if you look at it carefully, it's all extra explanation, or they're just full of examples. Other products and services that appear to be American are in fact produced or owned by other foreign countries. Okay, so I'm just going to go with this. I've already mentioned the American part. I'm just going to go with this. So that's all I'm going to go. Now, if you carefully have a look, I've only gone with the first sentence, the second one from the first sentence of the second paragraph, one sentence from the third paragraph, and probably just, I'll have to combine these sentences. But if you look at it, it's just one sentence from that paragraph as well. Now, if you look at this question carefully, full of data, full of information. You've got names such as so many company names: Gucci, Sony, McDonald's, Japanese sushi, German BMWs, even Coca-Cola, Starbucks. So I don't need to include so many examples in my answers, even though that they are nouns. We don't need them, isn't it? So now what I'm going to do is I need to find out whether I've done this section correctly or not. And how do I find out whether I've done it correctly or not? For this, I'm going to use artificial intelligence. So if you have a look at this, before we move on to AI, so these are the sentences that we have. highlighted, isn't it? So this one looks a bit messed up, but this is a bit more clearer version. All right. Get into our AI software now, the Alchemist software. So we finished discussing this question. Now let's get into the summarized written text over here. Let's get into the summary. As you can see, I have about 162 real exam questions and all evaluatable by the AI. So let's get into the question over here, which is another name, international trade. As you can see, guys, we've got exactly the same question, and I had selected the first line over here. I had selected the first line over here. I selected the second line in the third paragraph, which was up until here, and then I selected a few sentences. That means the first one over here, and then probably some information from the last part. I just cannot copy paste. I will have to create an answer which is pretty clean, and it is very, very identical to the, which makes sense, but also at the same time it is identical to the real exam question. So let's start writing. I'm going to begin with this one here because this question is about international trade. Let's write down international trade has boomed over the past 3 decades. The world is shrinking rapidly. Let's copy it from there. The world is shrinking rapidly with the advent of mass communication, quotation, and financial flows. And then I'm going to move into the third sentence, which is starting from the word despite. Financial flows, which is this one here. So despite a dip in the world trade was a recent recession caused by worldwide recession. Recent worldwide recession. And then I said I'll be copying something from here, like this sentence up until here, and then some parts from here, right? So I'm going to go with that, and I'm going to start writing from there on. Worldwide recession. Moreover, many United States companies have been successful long. So I'm just going to put it have long been successful and at international marketing. And then I said that I'll be going with some information from here as well, right? But I need to rephrase it. I just can't copy paste it. So I would be writing here international marketing. I'll just use a contradictory synonym. However, let's start with other products and services that appear to be products and services that. Okay, I think I need to rephrase this part. I cannot just copy paste it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just rephrase this, and I'm going to make it as produced or owned by foreign companies have become household words in America. Let's make it simple, in America, because that's what we can use this thing over here, right? Let's read this answer once again. As international trade has boomed over the past 3 decades, the world is shrinking rapidly with the advent of faster communication, transportation, and financial flows, despite a dip in the world trade caused by recent worldwide recession. Moreover, many United States companies have long been successful in international marketing. However, other products and services that are produced or owned by foreign companies have become household words in America. So guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit evaluate or submit. Let's have a look. There you go. So that's what my answer is, and I don't have, this is what I've written. I didn't get any S mistake. I don't have any spelling mistake. I don't have any grammatical mistake. Vocabulary is fine. I've got a full 90. And as you can see, I've got content too. I've got form because I've maintained the word limit. All my keywords are given here. Grammar, as I said, also includes the spellings. So I've added that section over here. And you've got vocabulary, which is again given me two full. And here is an advised answer as well. If you have a look, the advised answers are also given at the bottom of the page. Now, the software is pretty good in detecting if you've got any issues or if you have any mistakes at all. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a second question, and I'm going to help you out with another question, which will be very, very interesting for you. Let's have a look. Let's see if we can get into that. All right. Okay, so this was the question that we just finished with a data and multiple paragraphs. As you can see, this was the question that I just went through those lines. I did them in the AI. Let's move to the second question. So yet again, this is our AI, which is www.alchemistacademy.com.au. Let's go ahead and let's have a look. Now, before we move ahead, I'd just like to present some conjunctions to you, which you can always use. Now, there are some words like however, moreover, furthermore, nevertheless, thus, therefore, hence. They can be used in two ways. Either you put a semicolon and a comma, which is just like this over here, or you can put 2 commas just like this over here. Any one of them is absolutely fine. With the word so, you just need 1 comma to the right. With the word and, sometimes you do need a comma before and, sometimes you do not. So let's have a look when you don't. So for example, James is a great boxer. and gives free lessons on the weekend. You don't need a comma before and in this case because this is a dependent clause. This part of the sentence is like a dependent clause. But if you look at this one, James is a great boxer, comma, and he gives free lessons on the weekend. In this case, you need to use a comma because both of them are independent clauses. The same rule would follow the word but, and if you want to put a comma with the word but, you need to have two independent clauses. So please use these conjunctions. They are some of the most academic conjunctions and they can help you a lot in the real test. Let's look at another question, which is questions with direct quotes. Usually when we do a question with direct quotes, we say that we shouldn't include any information from direct quotes into our answer because it usually we use direct quotes when we are either copying someone's word or we are referring to someone's word. All right, so let's start with skimming and scanning this question. So as you can see, let's skim and scan this together, and I can see the word complaining. It's about environment, conscious environment, complaining. So I think it's related to complaining. All right, let's start reading this together. Humans love to complain to each other and it helps us to feel less alone. All right, think about what happens when a family member or a friend is going through a tough time. They call up someone who will listen to their tale or woe. Unfortunately, negative bonding is the default for many groups. I think I would only have this part and up until this means the first two sentences. That's it. I wouldn't include this because this is just like explanation. In some families, complaining is the only way to get attention. Alrighty, when one person says I had a bad day, the other person has to top it. You think you had a tough day? I had to do 3 TPS reports. Okay, so there you see, inverted commas not needed. The same thing happens at work and social settings. Your child didn't sleep through the night until 6 months. Mine was a full year old before she went over 6 hours. Again, not needed. It's a race to the bottom. The first situation wins. In bitching is bonding. A Guide to Mutual Complaint. Ines Levine, PhD, a professor of psychiatry at the NYU Langone School of Medicine, says the reason these conversations feel good is because we feel understood. You can see the whole paragraph is in quotation. So I'm just gonna probably go with this one here, and I will go just stick until this point. Unlike the previous answer, I'll just go with, all right, I mean the previous paragraph. Let's go into the next paragraph. People raised in negative environments learn early on being positive gets you thrown out of the club. When family dinner is a complaint fest, you're not going to risk attention saying, wow, I had an awesome day, don't you just love life? This is again inverted commas. We don't need that, right? But I might include this one, gets you thrown out of the club. I'll just get this thing in. I won't get anything more than that. I just feel that this is valuable, so let's highlight it. All right, translate into this work setting. People often unconsciously believe being positive keeps you out of the cool club. Again, there's a repetition of points, so I will try to include this. When negativity provides bonding, the humans are reluctant to abandon the behavior that brings them comfort. Okay, I might include this as well because this is a unique point about complaining, like why we humans cannot change. And let's try to include all of this in my answer, right? So this is, if you look at it, I literally didn't go through, I'm not including anything from here, anything from here. I wouldn't include these last two sentences, first one not needed as well. So let's have a look in a cleaner way. So the questions or the sentences that I've highlighted are actually just this, which is the first sentence here, first one here, some sentences from the third paragraph, and just one in the end from the last paragraph. Now let's go to the AI and let's see if we can, let's solve this and let's see what scores we get. It was a second question, we've already finished that. Let's get into this. Humans love to complain, that's the name of the question. So as you saw, I only picked up the first two sentences here. I picked this one here, I picked something in the end over here. Sorry, it was this sentence here and the last sentence from this paragraph. Now this question is going to be slightly easy because I do not need to rephrase this question again. I can literally just write it exactly as it is and just use conjunctions in between to combine these ideas. Let's have a look. All right, so I'm going to start with that. Humans love to complain to each other as it helps us feel less alone. All right, as it helps us feel less alone. Moreover, let's say alone, and it's an easy one, and in some families, which is the second sentence over here, and in some families, complaining is the only way to get attention. Complaining is the only way to get attention. And then I said it's all in direct quotes, so I'm not going to include anything from there. Now coming to the third sentence, which is from the third paragraph. Moreover, people raised in negative environments learn. So I'll need to probably rephrase that part a little bit. So it says learn early on, and I need to combine those two sentences. So learn that, in this case I would say learn that being positive gets you thrown out of the club. I'm going to put this because this is repeated 2 times in there. So thrown out of the club. Combine this furthermore, when negativity provides bonding, humans are reluctant to abandon the behavior that brings them comfort. Alright, so let's read it again. Humans love to complain to each other as it helps us feel less alone, and in some cases complaining is the only way to get attention. Moreover, people raised in negative environments learn that being positive gets you thrown out of the club. Furthermore, when negativity provides bonding, humans are reluctant to abandon the behavior that brings them comfort. Fair enough. Let's evaluate and see what scores do we get. Oh, 77. Why is that? If you look into this, I made a mistake with the word behavior. Okay, why is that? Because remember, when I was typing my answer, I didn't choose the language. I could have chosen whether it's American or whether it's British. Now, as a result of that, I've lost marks, because in American English, we don't say it as OUR. It is always considered as IOR. Well, leaving that part, I still have 2 marks in content, which is the most important thing. And as you can go down and have a look, the question also has an answer. The software is providing with an sample answer. Now, if you have a look at, it really reads your answer and picks up the mistakes in it. Now, one of the benefits that you can have by using this AI is you can do not only a lot of questions, but you can also understand what the software is, what the question is about, what your mistakes are about. Let's get back to the slides and let's discuss it in more detail. All right, everyone. So this was the question that we just did in our AI. Now, let's talk about the other things. Now, first thing first, we will be giving you a copy of the latest 25 questions with the answers. You can straight away get them by messaging on the Facebook page. If you have any questions or if you've got any queries, please feel free to text us on our main page and we'll be willing to help you. Even if you want to send some answers that you've written on your own, we will be more than happy to evaluate it for you. So grab these 25 latest questions, practice them and see how you can improve on them. Good luck. So I hope this webinar helped you a lot, and it helped you to understand how to follow the content recognition strategies and how do you do the real exam questions. Now remember one thing, guys, summarized written text is an important item type because it carries your scores into both writing as well as reading. All right, so you must ensure that you do this section absolutely well. Now we would like to share these 25 questions with you along with their answers, irrespective of whether you are our student or you're not our student, whether you enroll with us or not enroll with us. All you need to do is just put a like and comment on this video, and we will surely share it in the messenger with you guys. So make sure that you do practice this. Memorizing does not help with anything. You may know the skills, but remember that it's only practice that helps you to master those skills. All right. So I wish you all the best, and remember that together we are a team, together we can. Good luck with your test.